Okay, so welcome everybody to our T-KASH launch. We're really pleased to have you with us. As I've said, this is our second webinar today. So we had a webinar this afternoon that was really well attended. So really pleased that we're able to spread the word about T-KASH, and thanks for your interest. We hope that you'll ask lots of questions, but if anything comes to you after the webinar, then you can contact me or other members of the team, and hopefully we'll be able to answer those for you. So joining me today is Catherine Lewis, who is our office manager at Alström UK, and we've got Marie McGee, who's our transition coordinator, and we've got Alicia Sadiq, who is our youth advisor as well. And everybody will be speaking to you throughout this webinar, and hopefully we'll be able to have a discussion at the end as well. So a bit of an introduction to who we are. So I know most of you are familiar with Alström Syndrome UK, but I can see some new names, which is great. So a quick intro to us. So Alström Syndrome UK is a registered charity. We've been around since 1998, and we support people living with an ultra rare genetic condition called Alström Syndrome. We have a contract with NHS England to deliver a highly specialised service in partnership with Birmingham Women and Children's Hospital and the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham. We also manage the Breaking Down Barriers project, which is a network of organisations, over 60 organisations, working together to support people with rare and genetic conditions. We work together really to promote collaboration. We share good practice. We create safe spaces to have conversations, but really promoting equity, diversity and inclusion is at the centre of what we do. And what we really want to ensure is that all people affected by rare conditions have equitable access to services and support. So a few things to remember. The resources that we've developed were originally intended for people within Alström Syndrome UK, but we've broadened that now to including young people with rare conditions. So we just want to note that people with rare conditions do develop at different stages and have different abilities. So while these are quite generic resources that we've produced, we hope that people will take ownership of these resources and adapt them so that they're appropriate for them, their services, and the young people and families that you're working with. Everyone's hopes and dreams are very different, and we hope that that's recognised, and hopefully that runs through the different resources as well, and that there is no one size fits all. So I'm going to hand over to Marie now, who is going to talk you through T-KASH and transition and why this project was developed in the first place. Over to you, Marie.
Okay, thank you. Hi. Just a little bit about myself. I work for Alström Syndrome UK as the National Transition Coordinator, but I also work at Birmingham Children's Hospital as the Transition Care Coordinator in the Rare Diabetes team. And that means I see young people in clinic with the Alström Syndrome team, with the Wolfram Syndrome team and the Bardet-Biedl Syndrome team. My sort of journey in health started in 2009 when I moved from education into health services. And I started working in the rheumatology department of the Children's Hospital, where I worked with a doctor there, Dr. Janet McDonough, who had a real interest in transition in healthcare. And that's where I started to work with her very closely and look at transition more specifically, and look at how we can improve it and what we can do to support young people and get things right for young people. So we know that transition is not a single event. It's a gradual process of the young person maturing and eventually entering into adulthood. And it's what we can do to support them to understand their healthcare and manage their healthcare as they're growing and maturing. So transition hopefully starts at around age 11, certainly by about age 13 when they're in year 9, and that's a really good starting point there, when we start to look at all the different things that they need to help them to understand their healthcare and to manage their healthcare within any of the settings that they go into. We obviously want to support young people to thrive and achieve the best life possible, and work with the young people to build their confidence and manage their own care. but looking particularly at their strengths and working towards achieving their dreams, which is incredibly important. It's just as important as getting their exam results or choosing a career pathway or developing daily skills. Their dreams and ambitions are really important as well. Ensuring that young people have that their voice is heard and that they feel in control of their lives, as opposed to having things done to them. We want them to bring them along and be an equal partner in this. And we'd also be looking at not just the health side of things, but how we can support them with their education and social care and how that links into health and their wider life. Next slide, please. But we also know that language within transition, anything to do with transition, can be quite confusing. And our young people tell us this regularly. It's quite misunderstood, not only just by the young people, but their parents and sometimes with their professionals too. So it's just the language that used. Alicia, who we'll be chatting to in a little while, even last night we were talking about the fact that sometimes people call children's services paediatric services. You've got paediatric services, children's services, young people services, which is sometimes called adolescent services. So we've got this confusion of language, and also there's a lot of confusion about what is transition and what is transfer, and to help people to understand that, ASUK worked very hard to try and work with the youngsters to bring together some identifiable images to improve the understanding of transition. And this came about because our young people were also saying, well, actually, I can't find anything that helps us to understand a bit more about what's happening to me, about how I'm growing up. We would call it, the professionals might call it a process. Well, a process doesn't mean anything to the youngsters. They're just growing up and trying to understand their lives. And especially those youngsters who've got additional needs, we wanted something more engaging and something that meets people at different levels, depending on their level of communication. Next slide, please. So just to add a bit more to that, when we were thinking about where we can go with this, we've got some comments here from young people talking about things like there is a speech bubbles up at the moment, and one of them says, I am transferring to an adult hospital. Is that transition or transfer? No one has prepared me to transfer. So transition is about supporting youngsters at key change points in their lives, and that includes that preparation and their actual transfer. But actually, it's more than that. It's about helping them to understand where their skills lie, where their knowledge needs improving so that they can look after themselves when they're out in their wider life, and how their health conditions might impact on their wider lives. And it's not just the young people, it's the parent carers as well. There was a parent carer who said this quote to me: as a parent, I've heard healthcare staff say that my son is in transition. My son is 13. Does that mean he's moving somewhere? So again, you can see these two comments are mainly about transfer and about moving somewhere, but it's actually far more than that. And what had happened with this particular parent was that somebody in that particular clinic had told this mom that her son was in transition, and as far as she was concerned, that after that appointment, the son was moving to another hospital, because again, it was this confusion of transition is far more than just the event of transfer. And I'd like to bring Alicia in at this point, because Alicia is preparing to transfer to adult services, and she's been part of our clinics for quite a while, but she's also had a chance to go to her local services, and she's had lots of conversations with health professionals and been trying to support her journey in young people's services. So Alicia, can you come on? Can you open up your mic for a minute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you. Thank you, Alicia. So, Alicia, can you explain to people a little bit about why you think transition for young people is important, and why you think improving their knowledge and skills is important? If you think about, you know, when you first started coming to clinics, you were quite quiet and you didn't speak up for yourself, and you think how you are now, how has that changed?
No, I'm very confident and I can ask questions and I can find out about things I don't know. And I can ask the doctors and the health professional, what does this mean? And I make my own decisions about my health.
Which are all really important skills, which is great.
Yes.
Yeah. And Alicia is part of a forum that we run, a young people's forum called the ASUK Culture Family Forum. And within that, Alicia shares a lot of the skills that she's developed. And one of those things is she has learnt how to recognise money, and then she's gone on to use a debit card. Do you want to say a little bit about how you improved your skills managing money and using debit cards as well, Alicia?
I got my own bank card and my own online banking. I needed help to open it, so I asked for help. But that was my decision if I wanted one or not. And I know all the different coins, which coin is which.
Thank you, Alicia. Thank you. And Alicia, I should have said this at the beginning, but Alicia said she was happy for me to share that Alicia is visually impaired. She does use cochlear implants, but that does not stop her in any way. Because we listen to her voice, and because we're always asking her how we can support her, what does she need, how can we support her to prepare for transfer, we've got that open dialogue, and it's very much a hand in hand, working together to help Alicia in the best way possible. So thank you for sharing that, Alicia. I might come back to you in a few minutes as well. Just moving on to the next slide, Kerry. So basically, what did we do? So Alström Syndrome UK, way back in 2015, at one of our conferences, we decided it was important to find out what young people really wanted from us in terms of how can we help them, how can we support them, how can we listen to them, what do they feel, what do they think. And we had huge sheets of paper with big pens so they could draw, they could write. We had plasticine to make designs, to make logos. We also opened it up to their siblings, who were just as important, because we see a lot of siblings in clinic. They're in that supportive manner, and of course parents and carers, and some of the professionals that were there also took part in that. And as part of that, they came up with a variety of images, which we'll go into shortly, which formed the basis for T-KASH and how we've grown those images into much more resources. So the images were all updated in 2022, and this is because we wanted to make sure that they were completely inclusive and they really represented the needs of young people within the rare disease community. So although we'd gone to our young people from the Alström Hear My Voice Youth Forum, we opened the more recent discussions out to our Breaking Down Barriers Experts by Experience advisory group, our own youth advisors and our young adult advisors. And that's where Alicia also offered some additional support there. And that's where we went on to create some new resources, including an animation and a number of the things that we'll go into shortly. Next slide, please. So our starting point was the creation of the T-KASH logos, which were 10 originally, which has now grown into 12 logos, which, like I said, were updated, and we tweaked the wording and made them far more inclusive in 2022. So completely co-produced with our young people families and some of the staff from ASUK. They cover 12 key aspects of a young person's life, and each logo represents topics, and it's just like the tips of the icebergs to go into developmentally appropriate conversations with the young people under these different logos that help to bring together conversations. And what we also did was identify a variety of knowledge and skills within each of these aspects of the young person's life to help them to grow and to develop and to mature and take more control. Within that, we can figure out where they need support for key change points in their lives. The conversations that we have with our young people now using these logos and the other resources we've got helps them to think about their own bodies and the questions that they'd like to ask to other healthcare providers, and other support workers can do more to help them, because they're starting to open up more and having more rounded conversations. And that information that we can use that with the young person's permission and the families, we can share that information for the education and social care plans, the EHCP plans, Care Act and deafblind assessments, or any other assessments or support that your young person might need. Next slide, please. So from those, Kerry, could you go back one, please? I've just missed a key point here. So in 2022, as you get, I'm just explaining, Alicia, there are 12 logos here, and we're going to talk about, there's my culture and my beliefs, which is about 1 o'clock on this circle of logos, and genetics and me, which is about 9 o'clock on this circle, so people can identify those. Now, those two logos or two aspects, we added those in post the pandemic. And the reason for that is, throughout the pandemic, it was very clear that people's culture and their beliefs really impacted on how they negotiated and or contacted or stayed within the support of the NHS or their health providers. It was pretty clear that they had their own traditions and their own beliefs that they were falling back on, and not necessarily taking up the vaccine or their belief in the vaccine. And we felt it was very important in our clinics now and in our work with our young people that we began to understand more about their culture, more about their beliefs, and how that impacts on their health condition and their wider life. And that's why that one was added in. And genetics and me, that was also added in because although we give the opportunity to talk about genetics generally in clinic, I don't think there's ever been direct questions to try and help young people from a very early age with easy to understand language, what genetics is and what that could mean for their bodies. So again, that has to be developmentally appropriately delivered, but it's still important and should start early with our young people. So I just wanted to add those points in. If we just go to the animation. So the animation grew up from the 12 logos. We wanted, now we've got something colourful and something designed by young people. It was really important now to capture the young people's energy, different aspects of their lives, and really bring this to life. So Alicia came on board at this stage, and she started doing some work around what this animation could look like and the sort of things that we, with the script and how that was really important. So Alicia, in 1 minute, we're going to play the animation, and then at the end of that, I'm just going to ask Alicia to share a little bit about how she really supported the development of the animation. Can you play that now, Kerry, please?
Transition, knowledge and skills in healthcare. T-KASH. Young people with rare conditions want this animation to be used as an educational tool to improve their transition in healthcare.
Transition in health is so confusing.
Having a rare medical condition doesn't make it any easier.
Teachers often think that transition is when you move from primary to secondary school.
Doctors and social workers might tell you that it's when you move into adult services.
For us, it's much more than this.
As our bodies and brains slowly change, we need to learn to speak up for ourselves and to make good decisions.
With our friends at Alström Syndrome UK, we came up with T-KASH. Transition, knowledge and skills in healthcare.
So, what is T-KASH?
These are resources that cover 12 key areas of our lives. They can be used to support us from the age of 11 into adulthood and show how wide and varied our lives can be.
Me, my life and my family.
This means the things I like doing, my dreams and wishes, and how I get on with people at home.
My culture and beliefs.
This is about how I live my life, my language and religion, the food I eat, clothes I wear, and music I like.
Growing up wise
means opening a bank account, managing my money on a budget, and planning my time.
Keeping safe
Means telling someone if I'm being bullied, being safe online, and looking after myself when I'm out with friends.
Fun and leisure
Is about doing things I like, going out and having a laugh.
My emotions
To look after my emotions, I need to know who to talk to and where to go for help.
Speaking up for myself
Means asking questions, seeing healthcare staff on my own, understanding my rights, and making my own decisions.
Health, relationships and lifestyle.
To stay healthy, I need to eat healthy and exercise. To shop, cook, and get around safely, and know what is safe to do in a relationship.
Knowing about my medical conditions.
It's good to be able to describe my condition, to know why I take medication and what it does.
Genetics and me.
It's also good to know about my genes and how genes are passed on.
Transferring to adult services.
This is about preparing for big changes in my routine and to take more responsibility for myself.
And finally, planning for my future.
This will help me get a good education, find work that I love, and live my best life.
T-KASH is there to help you,
Have regular chats with us about transition in healthcare,
to check in and see how we are doing,
ask us questions,
and listen to our opinions.
but most of all to help us grow up healthy and happy, learning and growing in our own time, and doing things in a way that works for us. For more information and resources including a downloadable poster, top tips for young people, parents, carers, and healthcare professionals,
And a how-to guide to help support positive transitions into adulthood.
visit www.breaking-down-barriers.org.uk.
So there's our animation, and what we hope is that we're able to capture not a process but more of what transition truly means to our young people. And they really want the animation to be used as an educational tool for anybody, for other young people, families, definitely for our healthcare professionals who sometimes get mixed up, as we said earlier. The confusion is theirs too, as well as other people's. Educators, anybody from any setting, really, it's really important. And Alicia was really, really helpful in a number of things that we did together. So Alicia, can you come back on? Is your mic open at the moment?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So Alicia, some of the things we did together was I read the script to you a number of times, and that was one of the things you worked on. Can you remember some of the things that you said about the script and how you helped me to change it and improve it? Because you were very clear, weren't you, about some of the wording was not the right type of words, and you wanted things to be clearer. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you were very good at giving lots of pointers about that. And then when we were at the stage where we were recording voices, I would play it back to Alicia, and Alicia again would be able to say, well, actually that doesn't sound right, and it doesn't fit properly with what you're describing as a logo you're describing. And Alicia, you were very good, weren't you, at being able to advise even about the colours and the sound and the tones of people's voices, because those were very important to you.
Yes, to make sure the video was right.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Thank you. So from there on, what we wanted to do was underpin the animation with some additional resources that would go out to any service that want them. So what we will be doing is each individual logo that you've seen earlier, we'll be able to send those out as a pack. So each individual logo and the title logo, a poster that has the 12 logos in a circle, and some conversation starters that go with that run down the side of that circle, a how-to guide to support the understanding and delivery of T-KASH, and we'll come back to that in a minute. The educational animation, which you've just seen, that will be that's already on the website, and that's for anybody really to have a look at. As part of my work at Birmingham Children's Hospital, I created a transition assessment tool called My Life, My Future, which is something that I use to have conversations with structured conversations with young people where the traditional assessment tools, where they might be filling them in and there's tick boxes, and they don't work for some youngsters. Sometimes you need to have a more structured conversation and be able to find out different things about this young person. And I find that the My Life, My Future assessment tool works particularly well with youngsters with have any form of disabilities, whether it be a learning disability or they're learning disabled in some way. If they're not very good at speaking up for themselves and we want to find out a few more things about them, we find that the My Life, My Future assessment tool is really helpful from there. And from it, we can create a transition plan to support them. Now, sometimes I might fill that plan in, I might scribe it for them. Sometimes they might fill it in themselves. They might even draw pictures in it. I don't mind what the method is, because there's ways of working with each person individually, depending on their communication style. And we've also got a how-to guide to go with that transition assessment, so that if anybody is working with a young person, that makes more sense. And of course, the resources are there to help draw attention to the knowledge and skills of the young people, to prepare the young people for identifying and coping with change at key points in their lives, and very importantly, to help them plan for their eventual transfer over to adult services. Now, that could be to adult hospitals, it may be that they're discharged to their GP. And when we say adult services, we also talk about areas as though they might be changing their social care support from children and young people's team to an adult social worker. So we have to explain the differences within that as well. So it's not just adult healthcare services, it's all the other services that come with that too. Next slide, please. So the T-KASH how-to guide that is part of that pack of resources. Each of the logos, what we've done is identify a collection of knowledge and skills that underpins some of the work that people can carry out in that area with that young person. So these are ones that come up regularly in my consultations with the young people, and with some of the work that I picked up from rheumatology and work that I've done with previously with Dr. McDonough, we were able to really hone down the types of knowledge and skills that our young people need to develop. So when we send out the how-to guide, each individual logo, as I said, has a collection of knowledge and skills that go with it, that people who are supporting these youngsters can use this as a guide to develop and educate our youngsters. Next slide, please. My Life, My Future has been set out in a very easy read. I think the reason that it works quite well is because the discuss bubbles are the areas where if somebody's supporting a young person to fill this in, that's where they come in to sort of say, have you thought about this? Do you know what confidentiality means? Do you know what consent means, or duty of care? These words that sometimes thrown around in consultations, but our youngsters don't know what they are. So it's there to act as prompts. All the discuss points are prompts for the person that's helping the young person to either fill this in themselves, or the person who might be scribing or writing up what their young person is saying. So these are examples of the pages. And again, that'll go out in the pack with all the other information that Catherine will send out to people if they want them. Next page, please. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague now, Catherine, who will take you through the interactive website.
Great, thank you, Marie. Hello, everyone. So I'm Catherine Lewis. I'm Office Manager at Alström Syndrome UK and Breaking Down Barriers. And I do a lot of the behind the scenes work, really. So looking at the website as well as sort of marketing and communications. So we've really been able to develop an interactive website for you. So we've got on the website, there's all the background information about why T-KASH is so vitally important. You'll find all the logos in the circle as we've been describing, and each section is interactive. So when you go around the circle, you can hover on each one and it will turn a slightly different colour, and then you can click on that circle and it'll be able to access each individual area, which gives you a little bit more information about each specific area. And then also within that is different resources depending on who's using the website at the time. So we've got resources on there for young people, and then we've also got resources on there for families, parents, carers and professionals as well. So there's different areas for each individual logo, so you're able to have a look through there and find further information and support. Now the website is going to be an ongoing process, so it's not the final finished article as such. We're going to be developing it all the time, so you might see new resources popping up on there and different support aspects as well. So it'll be a continual process there for us, but it's a really good way of getting to know the logos. And as I say, it's a very interactive area for you to be able to all get to grips with the different areas, and then you can obviously ask us for more resources such as the how-to guide, which will be able to help you develop those skills and knowledge further. So back to you, Marie, and you can go through some top tips with us.
So this was just a little bit more information we wanted to put in there about making sure that all the support that we give is personalised to that young person, that we keep the young person at the heart of everything. Really important to explore the young person's life and future aspirations. As I said earlier, those that not everybody's going to go on and do GCSEs and go to college or uni. Some of our youngsters have, you know, they've got real aspirations to develop their daily living skills, to do lots of activities via their PA or with their social care team that set up particular budgets and activities and choices for them there. So we're very keen to look at each person as an individual and use their strengths, knowledge and skills to develop more package of support or point them in the right direction as they're getting older and getting into adulthood. We do know there'll be lots of barriers and challenges along the way, but it's supporting them, planning with them, acting on their behalf. Quite often I find that in my role, I'm sorting out EHCPs where perhaps the content of it and what they said is supposed to happen is not happening. Youngsters aren't getting access to the right resources or the right adapted technology. So there's lots of barriers sometimes that stop them from accessing their education appropriately, or being able to go out with their PA because they haven't got the right type of PA. So there's lots of things that we can do, not just me, but any professionals can do to support our young people. And we hope that the T-KASH keeps bringing people back to the young person's voice and how that is managed within the work. Having a key worker is really important. That's a sort of gold standard, really, to make sure that our youngsters have key workers to support them through big changes in their lives. That doesn't always happen, but that's definitely what professionals are working towards. And then when our young person is preparing to transfer, that we make sure that they familiarise themselves with the new services so that they understand what the change is bringing forward, where they're going, how that's going to work, and how meeting people, having opportunities to meet new teams beforehand, whether that's online, because I know we can organise online chats and online appointments, having orientation visits to new services so they get an idea of logistics, how far it is, where do you park, is there a lot of walking to be done. Certainly from a children's hospital to an adult hospital, the question that comes up regularly is how big are the needles? Because in a children's hospital, they think small needles, big needles in an adult hospital. So actually going to phlebotomy and having a quick chat and understanding the processes there, and how they go about a blood test, that's really a key point that comes up regularly. So these are just sort of few little top tips we thought we'd throw in at this point. Next slide, please. So we want you to be creative, we want to let your ideas flow, we want you to personalise these resources and really use them to the benefit of the young people that you work with. We've got a few examples of use. BDB Syndrome UK, they used the logos when they first came out in 2015, and by the end of 2017 they had created a young person's transition booklet where they used each individual logo to create a page of support. That's on their website now, and they've also created a dedicated area on their website now as well, just around the logos and how that works with the transition booklet. A school in South London, they've also used T-KASH as a basis for their preparation for adulthood workbook, and this is used by students across the school with learning disabilities. And actually this school have told me that their local authority are so impressed that they're looking to roll that out to a number of schools in their area, which is great for us to hear how it's being used. And Rare Revolution have used T-KASH with their American partners. So some of the young people that work within Rare Revolution are out in America, and one or two are already back in the UK, and they used the animation and the logos to make a transition roadmap and to really generate conversation and generate more resources that they will link to from their website to and social media and what we do within Breaking Down Barriers. And just there's other ideas. I mean, there's we want people to be creative and flash your T-KASH. It was just a suggestion. You could use the logos to develop awards for young people under different aspects of their lives. It was just an example. So yeah, if you do start using them and you want us to know more about your work, please let us know, because we'd love to flag it up and put it out there on social media as well. Next slide, please. And these are just a few quotes here. I'll read a few out. These are from services that have either used the original T-KASH logos or have already seen some of them more recently. So one of our services says, "I'm speechless. You've captured everything we've been trying to explain about transition in one easy to follow resource. I can't believe you've pulled it together in such a format." And they were talking about the animation there and how suddenly we've got something that, oh, so that's what transition is. It's all of those things. It's all of those different aspects of somebody's life, which that was great feedback. The next few are from young people who are part of the BDB Young Persons by Experience group, who said, "When I went through transition, we had to work at it. We had to work it out on our own. We didn't have a guide. This would be a really good guide for people." And another young person said, "I wish I had this when I was growing up and I was going through transition." And those were young people that we showed the animation to them beforehand just to get some feedback and see if we were going in the right direction. And one young person said to me, "It's good that you've mentioned culture. No one speaks about this other than you in clinic." Now, this happened to be a young person who had been into many of my consultations. We've always really talked about their culture, and it was a standard thing for me to do, but to actually put it as part of our logos now, it's not just about me, it's about everybody else coming on board, and certainly healthcare professionals understand the impact of culture and beliefs. And a couple of other quotes there. These came originally when the T-KASH was first launched, and that was wonderful project and initiative. Youth voice always matters, and that was the children and young people's team at RCPCH. One of the doctors from the Children's Hospital, who was the rare disease lead at the time, she said, "The resources are fantastic, a really excellent holistic approach." And Sophie, who was the program manager from the Roald Dahl Marvelous Children's Charity, also thought it was a great initiative and it was important to get transition right. So that just sort of gives a flavour of how it was accepted at the time. So I'm just handing you back to Catherine now.
Thank you, Marie. So we wanted to give some real special thanks to everyone that has been involved in the T-KASH development, particularly the young people that have been involved. You know, they've given their time so freely to be able to help and support us through this, really, so that we get them right. So we really want to thank Abdullah and Ratando, who have provided the animation voiceovers for us on the animation. We've got Alicia Sadiq, who's with us this evening. She's one of the T-KASH youth advisors. The Alström Syndrome UK Hear My Voice Youth Forum, and the Breaking Down Barriers Expert by Experience Advisory Group, and really all the young people and families who've given their time so freely and all their experience to really help make T-KASH inclusive and representative of the young people within the rare disease community. So thank you to each and every one of you. We'd also like to thank our funders. You know, without funders and, you know, contributions, it really would be difficult to do projects such as this. We have the Pears Foundation and Contact a Family, who gave us a grant to be able to develop the resources. We also had some sponsorship, which is fantastic. So we had Juvenile Idiopathic Arthritis and National Rheumatoid Arthritis Society, who were our gold sponsors, and they sponsored the Transfer into Adult Services logo. We've also had sponsorship from Medics for Rare Diseases, and they were our bronze sponsor, and they wanted to sponsor the logo, knowing about my medical condition. We had Rare Revolution magazine and part of their project as well, which is Rare Youth Revolution. And they were a bronze sponsor as well, and they wanted to sponsor the logo Speaking Up for Myself and Making Decisions. So thank you to each and every one of you for supporting that. But there are still sponsorship opportunities and funding opportunities available. So please get in touch with me and I'll be able to send you one of our sponsorship brochures, and then you can be more actively involved as well, which would be fantastic. So how to find out more and how to get your hands on the resources that we've been talking lots about. So it's really simple to get in touch and to register with us. So that's all we're asking from people really, is to register your interest so that we can really keep track of where the resources are going and how they're being utilised. So simply send us an email, send myself an email to catherine.lewis@alström.org.uk. Send that along with your name, your job title, where you work, and what you'd like to use the materials for. And then we'll be able to send that pack that we've talked about, which will have all the resources in, the posters, the how-to guide, and it'll be able to help you develop those resources further. We do ask that an acknowledgement statement is used if you're using the resources on your website. And we're able to send that to you as well at the time, so that you know that you're getting that right for us. And it's just so that we really are able to thank the people that have been developing the project with us. And please contact us. You know, I think as Marie has mentioned many times, we really want this to be personalised to you, to your services for young people, and so that they really utilised in the best way possible. And we're happy to help you develop those for your service as well, so they really are personalised for you. There's obviously the Breaking Down Barriers website, which has all the information on there for you as well. Get in touch with myself, but also Marie. Marie is the font of knowledge, as I'm sure you're now realising, all about transition and supporting young people. So if you've got any questions or queries relating to transition or the T-KASH resources, then please do get in touch with Marie. She'll be able to answer any of your questions in relation to that, and I'm sure she'd be more than happy to help in any way that she can. So please get in touch. So, you know, the statement that we are using, you know, let's get it right for young people. You know, we really want young people to thrive. So please do get in touch and see how we can work together to help and support young people in the best way possible.